welcome to the DevReady Podcast, where we're helping non-techs build better tech. Today we're joined by, you can't see him down there, Alan Smithson, who is the co-founder of MetaVRse. Hey Alan, how you doing?
I'm so good, guys.
Love the intro.
I figured I'd make that dumb face that all the stock photography has, with their hands in front of them.
You've done well. We'll sell a few of those photos, take some snapshots. Sounds good.
Awesome.
Thanks for joining us all the way from Canada. It's about 9 a.m. in Melbourne time, but I think it's about 5 p.m. your time, and it's beer o'clock from what I say.
Cheers. Beer o'clock.
MetaVRse, obviously co-founder of MetaVRse, also run podcasts yourself in terms of XR space. So love to hear a little bit about your background and story before we jump into actually the business of MetaVRse.
Yeah, it seems like so in 2016, we called the company MetaVRse, and it was one of those things that it just was cool. We're like, oh, we'll spell it METAVRSE, and it'll be great. And, ready, a kind of a nod to Snow Crash, and, we're getting ready for the future. And I mean, 5 years later, we now have the word MetaVRse as like the future of the internet. So nobody really saw that one. I didn't see that one coming. That's pretty awesome. But how I got here is a very interesting story, in my opinion. I graduated university with a degree in molecular biology, and I started DJing on weekends and like parties and stuff like that. And I started a little DJ business on the side, and then I graduated. I got a job as a pharmaceutical rep. I was doing that, and I was always DJing on the weekends. And I was like, okay, well, there's got to be more to this, this working thing, right? So I was really good at pharmaceutical sales, and then I quit to start my own business, and I started a medical billing company. I saw an opportunity there, did that. And then that was like really not tech focused. That was like pen and paper kind of thing. It was terrible. And then I started a nutraceutical business after reading the 4-Hour Workweek, which was, I don't recommend that. Read the book, but don't do that. And
it's a good book. Yes, it is.
It's a great book. It'll save you maybe 4 hours a week. Instead of being, yes, because the goal is to work only 4 hours a week. I think if you use the tools, it'll save you 4 hours a week. But anyway, I digress. I literally have done so many different things. I had a nutraceutical company. We had a real estate holding company. We rented, apartments out to students in my university hometown. And then we owned a hostel. We had a hostel, a traveler's hostel up at a ski resort called Blue Mountain here. So we had a 32-bed hostel, and every week we're up there skiing and snowboarding. And then the DJing stuff was always kind of in the background. And then in 2010, we invented this technology. I saw a YouTube video. I was like, that's really cool. It was a touchscreen technology for the DJ industry. And we got involved, and we invested in it, and we brought it to market. And we launched it at a TEDx talk in Toronto in 2010. You got to imagine this is a giant see-through touchscreen glass see-through board in 2010 before the iPad. So it was like way ahead of its time. And we worked with, Linkin Park and Infected Mushroom and Morgan Page and J-Frog from Scooter and just a bunch of amazing artists. And most recently, actually in January this year, 2021, Jean-Michel Jarre played his really amazing future-focused concert at the Notre-Dame Cathedral. They 3D mapped the entire cathedral, and then they overlaid digital effects all over it. And so if you haven't looked, look Jean-Michel Jarre New Year's Eve. It's incredible. And the emulator is on his right-hand side. He's actually playing live on the emulator in a virtual world. It was super cool. So got into that. That's how we got into tech. And then I was invited to perform at Curiosity Camp with a gentleman named Eric Schmidt. He ran a very small startup called Google for a bit. He has this camp. It was a small startup. Yeah, they may or may not.
Was that name? Yeah.
It was actually started in the garage of the Wojcicki family, and Esther is actually one of my friends now and mentors. And it really is a small world, this whole technology world. So I got invited to this Curiosity Camp to perform on the emulator, and I was playing, and I finished my set. And they said, hey, come and try this tent thing. And I was there with a guy named Robert Scoble and a couple other people. And it was in this dark tent. And the guy, he handed me this headset. And it wasn't like this. This is like slick. And, it had like giant row of cables coming out the back. It was probably double the size. It was a big, huge box. It was like more like that, sticking that on your forehead. It was huge.
Right,
huge headphones, and I was like, "Whoa, what is this contraption here?" But when I put it on, all that was gone. It was just me standing in the crowd, looking down at a concert, and I was like, "Whoa, this is really cool!" Like, okay, this is great. I feel like I'm right there, and the sound was great. And then somebody pushed my shoulder, and they just turned me on a swivel chair, and I looked, and I was like, "Oh my God, I can look anywhere!" Like, you can imagine, like our whole world. Our whole lives, we've been looking at a rectangle. And now all of a sudden I was inside looking anywhere I wanted to. And it was at that moment I was like, oh my God, this is magic. And then they pressed a button and it switched the camera angle. Now I was standing on stage next to Beck. And I was like, oh my God, this is, and being a performer for 20 years of my life, I was like, well, it's very rare for the actual average person to be able to stand on stage and look out to the crowd. And that's something that, I always love that feeling, you're in your crowd and you hit the right song at the right time and all the hands go up and you're just like, yeah. And to be able to share that with somebody in a VR headset. And I was like, what is this? And then of course I started learning about it, but it was that moment where I realized like, this is something special. This is not a new type of app for a phone or something. Like this is a truly transformative technology. And I guess obviously Mark Zuckerberg tried it shortly thereafter, or maybe even I guess before, and bought Oculus, for $3 billion. It was $2 billion plus. So that's how I got involved in this, and then immediately after that, I started what became MetaVRse. It was called Shock Creative at the time, and we were just building experiences for brands. And we started off in the event side of things because that's what we knew, right? I was DJ, I knew the events people, so I said, hey, why don't we bring VR to your events? And so we had the first Vive, I guess it was the Vive, HTC Vive. I mean, it was the very, very beginning one. It was the first one in Canada we had. And so we would go to events and we had like VR. Nobody had VR. And then of course, like maybe a year after that, they introduced the VR where you could slide your phone into it. And we had, dozens of those things because you could bring it to an event. The only problem is all the phones used to overheat like crazy. So we used to have, we'd go to an event with 30 headsets. We'd have them all lined up and we'd have 30 extra phones sitting on ice packs charging. So you're like, you're literally frozen phones charging on ice packs. And then you'd swap them out as they died, right? As they got overheated and died. And that was back a minute ago. And so we were building, and then we said, okay, well, let's build some content. So we started filming 360 videos because that's what we knew. And then we built our own video, like our own cameras. We 3D printed the rigs. And that was a time where you had to stitch every camera angle. So if you had I think I just had 7 cameras in it. But you can imagine those 7 cameras all have a different perspective. And somewhere there's a seam in between the overlap of the 2 lenses. Well, that was all done manually. Literally, somebody had to go and stitch it and kind of like feather out the seams. And oh my God, it was bonkers. A minute of footage was like $10,000 to stitch together. So we filmed like the Much Music Video Awards, and we filmed Pride, and then we filmed the Groove Cruise and a couple other things. And it was a battle to make it all work. And then we actually bought from Korea the first Samsung Gear cameras, the 360 cameras. It looked like an eyeball. It was a round camera with 2 eyes on the outside. And we ordered them. They were $500. They were cheap, like cheap considerably. Like we were putting 7 GoPros in a rig. So, cheap comparatively. And we got it from Korea. And I remember we got it. We were the first in North America to have them. And we went out and did a test shot. And we threw it in VR. And I was like, guys, this changes everything. Like just order a dozen of them because, the GoPros would fail or, the battery would die in the middle of the shot. And they're like, you have 7 cameras to take care of. This was one, and it stitched on my phone. There was no post editing, no nothing. You just hit go. It was stitched. You sent it, and now you could edit it in post. It was like revolutionary.
Just works.
But it was also, it just was like, yes, okay. So we bought a whole bunch of those cameras, like, 25 of them. And we just sent them everywhere. It's like, here's a stick, here's a camera, here's how it works. Press the button, film as much as you can. And so we collected a huge amount of 360 footage, and we started building a library of it. And we were actually featured in, Samsung store and stuff like this. But what we also did was we pitched Samsung on the idea of, imagine the ball, right? But imagine a giant one that you could walk into in Times Square and then get your photo taken by this camera in a green screen sphere and Photoshop yourself into underwater or in space or wherever and see yourself in VR immediately. So we pitched the VR photo booth to Samsung, and they bought it, and we built it. It was incredible. It ended up not being a sphere. The first one we did was a sphere, and it was just too big, to be honest. It was like 20 feet across. It was massive. So we ended up making a cube. It was 10 by 10 by 10, green screen on the inside. And we had to fabricate a custom light post that went in the middle. So the camera sat on the top, and this was like a custom light post in the middle that we made. And we were going to patent it. Anyway, long story. So we had this light post in the middle, the camera in the middle, and you could go in and stand with your friends. We go 3, 2, 1, click, and then you could instantly go outside. We hit a button, and it would post it to a VR headset, and you could try it in the Gear VR headset. So it was beautiful, and we sold them to Samsung, and they launched one in New York and one in LA, and that was super successful and an amazing time there. And then we started building like content, and we just did anything and everything as long as it had to do with VR, 360, 3D. All of this. And so over the last, I guess since we started, like call it 6 years ago, we've done well over 120 projects now. And so we're well over 120 projects. We've done everything from AR. We did the first web AR, commercial web AR project in the world. We've done 8 world firsts. We did the first commercial augmented reality sandbox. That was super cool. We used Kinect cameras and projectors to shine down on a sandbox, and then it was some code from one of the universities. And as you changed the topography of the sand, the projection would change. So it would like you dug a hole and it would fill in with water, and the mountains would get bigger and they would be yellow, and they were just like bonkers. So we sent that on tour, and that actually went on tour to over 1 million people. They were going through, so many people went through it. They were going through a 50-pound bag of sand a week because it wasn't regular sand. It was that kind of cool space sand that they have now.
The one that sticks together, yeah.
Yeah,
that's
sort of
the
sticks
stuff.
together.
Kinetic sand.
A 50-pound bag of that a week to refill it because people were,
It just gets lost in the
losing it,
clothes.
whatever. Yeah, it was a crazy time. So we were building hardware, we were building software, we just built all these different things. And really what it came down to, I was just looking at the whole industry of where are the opportunities, where are the weaknesses, where's the biggest challenge in this industry. And one of the things that came, because we started building like AR apps as well. So we built the launch app for HBO Westworld. We built the launch app for Bell and HBO for that. And in building all these things, we started doing 3D, and we realized that there was a couple challenges. One, there was no way to have like a digital asset management system for 3D content at the time. There's a few out there now, Ventana, and there's some other ones now. But imagine like companies were spending millions of dollars just to store and have access to their 2D assets, like photos, images, logos, these things, like color schemes, so that one brand, if it's a global brand, could have access. Everybody would have the same images, same photos, right? But 3D didn't have this. So I thought, okay, well, that's a problem we can solve. We started working on it. Then the other major problem that we kind of came up against was building this content was crazy expensive, and there was only a few people in the world that know how to do it. And so, we were developing most of our stuff on Unity, some on Unreal. And I was like, man, this is really, and I tried to learn it myself, and I was like, this is way over my head, this stuff. And so the biggest challenge that I saw was content management at scale for enterprise, and also the content creation. There was no easy way to create the content. And so we set out to find an organization or create it. So we started working on the content management side. And then we said, well, we need a content creation platform, and it needs to be on the web, because every customer was saying, does it need an app? Can we get rid of the app? We need it on the web. That's why we did the Web AR project. Now, back in 2016, 17, Web AR wasn't a thing. I mean, it just wasn't. And
no, you were very early, weren't you?
Oh, it was crazy.
Yeah,
we found this code from
yep.
MIT, and you had to have a box around your logo or whatever, and we had a box around it, and you could shine your phone at it on the web. It would use the camera, find it, and be able to project AR on it. It was janky AF, but it worked, and we got it done, and we delivered the project for the client. And then my team said afterwards, if you ever sell that again, we all quit, because it was so hard to do. Yeah, so we're going to walk out. Forget it. Don't ever sell it again. So that was Web AR in 2016. And in doing all that, we realized that it has to be web, and it has to be easy to use, and it has to, hopefully not require code. because if it requires code, then it's going to eliminate a ton of creators. And so we started an accelerator back in, I want to say 2018, called XR Ignite. We brought together 65 mentors from all around the world, some of the top people in XR. And we had this advisory board. We had 160 companies apply for the accelerator, and we ended up acquiring one, and the acquisition didn't go through. And so we were introduced at that exact same time where we were doing the accelerator, we're doing all these things. We were introduced to some people here in Toronto who literally live 5 minutes from our house here. And they're like, oh, here, check out what we're doing. And they showed us what they were doing. And it was like, holy crap. It was the most beautiful Mercedes-Benz 3D model I'd ever seen. Like I could zoom right in. It was beautiful. And, it was one of those things where I kind of had this aha moment. I was like, this is amazing. And then I said to them, oh, how long did it take you guys to build that on Unity? And they said, no, it's not built on Unity. It's built on our own proprietary technology. I was like, yeah, whatever. Like, it's a plugin for Unity. Okay. And really, the interesting thing is it wasn't. And, I'm sharing my screen now. Hopefully you guys can see it, but here's that same Mercedes-Benz, it still stands the test of time. That was, 3 years ago. And it still stands the test of time. It still looks beautiful. It's when I saw that, and the fact that it's running on a web browser is insane.
Yeah, exactly. It is insane.
It'll run on any device, on any browser. You can.
Yeah, that's really amazing.
Nuts. So, you can see real-time reflections.
Because normally, the detail, the number of polygons in the model will just kill the browser.
Would just smash this.
You won't be able to run.
Yeah. So, and this will run on an iPhone. It'll run on anything. Yeah.
Suppose the text got to the point where it can run anywhere. So that's some.
Yeah, hold on. I got to figure out how to stop sharing. There we go. Yeah. So I saw that and I was like, okay, this is amazing. And then they were able to trigger AR with no loss of functionality over the web, and I was like, oh man, this is okay. What the hell is this magic, right? So we ended up, we worked together for almost 9 months, really closely. We were trying to figure out how do we license their technology and this and that. We finally came to the conclusion, we're like, okay, screw all this. We'll just put the two companies together. You guys have an engine, like a quartz rendering technology that renders millions of polygons on a mobile browser. We've got a brand that we've built in customers. We put the two together and we launched the Metaverse Engine in June last year. And so we launched it right in the middle of a pandemic.
Exciting.
I was like, but it actually worked out better for us because it was something you could show, like you just saw it there. It was very, very showable on screen, right? So you could pitch it in Zoom. So we did, since June of 2020, we've probably done over 2,000, maybe 2,500 meetings with customers. And and that really gave us a couple things. It gave us customers and money and revenue, but it also gave us a really, really great insight into what enterprise customers need and want in a product like this. They loved the idea that they could do it themselves, that it was no code, that it was on the web. But then they were saying, oh, well, that's great, but why, we want to host it ourselves and we want it completely white labeled and we want this security feature and we want this and we want this and we want this. And so we kind of took a step back and we're like, oh crap, like we didn't build it for that. We built it for scale, but not all of these extra things that these people wanted. And so in working with kind of some of our bigger clients, we realized that, okay, we need to re-architect the infrastructure behind this. And so almost exactly a year ago, it was in November last year, we decided to rebuild the system, take the core rendering technology out, put it in version 2 and build the new version around it. And so we started in January, we built a team around it, and the team it's up to 15 people now, and it's working full-time just on building 2.0. In the process of building 2.0, we onboarded a ton of clients. We built virtual stores. We've been doing 3D training for a huge medical company. We do all their training now in 3D. We've been doing Samsung's training for their new models and their new devices. And so we've been onboarding customers using our platform to serve them and building 2.0 at the same time. So we literally we're now hosting two completely separate code bases. We got 1.0, which is serving the customers now, and 2.0, which is about to be released in 2022. And they both have the exact same features because we're battle testing them in this one and putting them in this one, and they have to be backwards compatible. So of course,
There's plenty of challenges there.
we got this, right? So
Yes.
luckily, our product team is world class, and the founding team on the Cherry 3D side, the guys that came over to join us. I mean, these guys have been working tirelessly to make sure that this rebuild gets done. But some of the new features in the rebuild are like mind blowing. You're going to be able to create in the editor on the web with your friends simultaneously.
Oh, that's the collaborative editing.
It's nice. It's a collaborative creation.
An enormous amount of time for designers, for 3D artists. It's going to save time because you'll do something, you send it to the client will go through it, they'll make little notes, they'll take screenshots, put it in a thing, circle, circle, circle. We actually built a tool in so you can actually just annotate from the 3D world now, and it'll save it in a repository, and the developers can do that. So we actually fixed that problem. But then we're like, well, what if we just get the people into the thing real time and let them do it? So now we're going to be able to bring our customers in, show them real time, and say, oh, change this, done, go ahead and change it. Change this, oh, done, go change this. It's going to save probably 10 times the back and forth with clients.
Just makes
so we're really excited
delivery accelerate.
And then we just announced a partnership last week with Hedera, which is a new environmentally friendly blockchain. It's kind of like Ethereum. They've actually done more transactions than Ethereum, but it's way faster. It's newer technology, and it uses proof of stake instead of proof of work, which for the geeks out there will know what that is. But for everybody else, it means we don't need to use computing power to authenticate the block, meaning now it has no environmental impacts at all, zero. And there's no gas fees and all that crap as well. So now we've got an enterprise-friendly blockchain that is fully scalable along with our enterprise-ready game engine. So that was a lot. I'm sorry, I took over.
Yeah, Alan, we can cut it there. You've told us everything. There's plenty in that. So it's been a big journey, clearly.
It has been. That was the goals notes of 6 years of my life.
Yeah. Sounds like it's been running at 1,000 miles an hour.
It feels like it's nonstop, guys. Like people said to me, I have a lot of people message me, do you ever sleep? And I thought about it. I'm like, I do, but when I'm not sleeping, I'm here with you guys.
Yeah, and you're probably dreaming what you're doing, right?
I dreamt last night, so I got to tell you something. You actually speared something. So last night, I got to see our new. We built a mall. It's coming out. I announced it a couple of weeks ago. We're building the Mall of Metaverse. We don't know what the name is. If anybody has a great name for it, let me know. We're still figuring that out. But the mall will be not only a mall, but a meeting place. Kind of like you can just go, you can socialize. It's all web-based, so you can go from any device, anywhere in the world, go buy things, socialize. So the first 2 floors are a mall. Everything else after that could be anything. Could be games, could be whatever. But the idea is people will congregate and they'll have avatars and walk around. So last night I got to see the first take of this mall, and it was absolutely incredible. It looks and feels like you're in a mall. And then you go into each store. I won't ruin it for everybody, but it's super cool, and it's coming out in Q1 next year, so you'll see it. But I dreamt of it last night. I woke myself up and I'm dreaming about this mall and what else we could put in it, because I'm like, okay, it's cool that it has stores, but I want to put art and I want to put music and I want to put live bands, and I'm like, why not? It should be the meeting.
You can put whatever you like in there, right?
There's no limit.
That's the whole point. And once creators figure out how to do it, right? And the fact that we built our actual engine to be low code, now people can anybody can build and then tack on, and it's not like low code meaning it's very within the Rails. I mean, you can code. It's fully JavaScript enabled. You can get buck wild on there. You can connect your back end to your order management system. You can connect your front end so that if I have a hardware thing and it affects the 3D, like you can get crazy. But 90% of the things you need to do is all drag and drop. So it saves so much time.
It's all about speed. So I'm imagining the mall is all about creating a 3D environment where people shop. So I've seen some samples of your stuff on the web where you can walk around a room, effectively look at products, and I'm imagining that's where that's all going. So what's the plan? Are we renting out spaces in the mall to organizations? What are we doing? How are we doing?
We are. Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, we're just in the process. So starting in January, we'll be selling them all.
So it just becomes another sales channel effectively for them too. And then the show, like the big showy tech piece to them, show off and show how innovative they are. No, awesome.
Well, and it's also It's going to be pretty damn cool. Like, I'll show you a quick snippet of what I'm talking about here. It's
where all this space is going, it's amazing. It's probably...
This is our first one. So this is the first one we made. Can you guys see what
it's one on the web. Yeah, you can go check it out on the website, just metaverse.com.
So this one here, I mean, we make this one available publicly, but you can look around. I can go around. Now, you can't walk in this one because this was before we had physics installed, but any object you press in here. So if I press this gray jacket, I fly over to the gray jacket. I can look at it from any angle. I can zoom out, zoom in. I can look around. Go to the red jacket.
That's pretty cool.
Change its colors, learn more about it.
That's pretty awesome stuff. Is it 3D photos? Is that how they're created?
So
3D photos? Because the objects are they look real.
Yeah, it depends.
I just don't feel like they come out of a game engine.
This shoe actually looks like it might have been done through photogrammetry, meaning they take a bunch of photos and stitch them together. I'm not sure, to be honest. I can't remember if this shoe was done through it's probably photogrammetry. But this camera is actually 3D modeled. So it's actually not through photogrammetry. So there's 7 different ways to create 3D assets. This one obviously has some animations and stuff in it.
And a lot of these large companies like the Panasonic, they would end up having these models made for their products. So they should just be able to reuse them.
Well, everybody's got CAD models. If you manufacture something, you have CAD models, right? So,
and that's another benefit for the business coming on board as well. They'll already have the base of the assets to use. It's not like they're investing from scratch again either.
Exactly. And one of the things that we've been telling everybody is most companies that manufacture a product have the 3D models. Now, the marketing team or the training team, because we focus kind of on 2 verticals, marketing and training. We don't do engineering and that sort of thing. We're more the pretty, create value through pretty interactions. But the cool thing about marketing and training is that once you have the 3D assets created for those, let's say you take them from your CAD model, you convert them, and now they're ready for marketing, let's say. Marketing uses them for the mall. Well, you can take the same animation, same things that you're doing, and bring it over and put it in your training department and now train your teams on it. It turns out training and marketing are very similar. You're either marketing the features of a product to somebody or training them on how to
sell it.
Not much difference, is there? So maybe a little bit more detail on the training side.
Different verbiage, right? Like, it's a little bit different verbiage. And maybe it's more detail in the training. Like we do some medical, oh my God. We talk about taking on the most difficult thing you could possibly do in 3D. We do medical device training. And like, it is detailed down to like which screw you have to take out to get it open. Like every screw, nut, bolt. Which plug you have to unplug to get inside. I'll show you here. This is an example. This is not the one we do for the client because we can't show that one, but it's a good example of what.
If you're listening to the audio, so just jumping onto the YouTube channel and just having a look at a couple of these little snippets that Alan's sharing.
Yeah.
So what I'm looking at now is an ultrasound machine in 3D, and I can turn it all the way around, look at bottom, top, every angle of it, and I can zoom right into all the buttons. Now, maybe I want to train somebody on the controls of it, right? So now the control features pop up. I can click the control, and now you can see, I can see what that does, right? It's all spatial as well.
And the amount of time and dollars this saves in terms of training.
So much
if you're
time.
Training thousands of people, you don't have to have that one-on-1, 1-on-10 interaction with someone that actually knows the machine. It's all done once, and then everyone has access.
It's literally 10 to 50 times improvement. X time.
Yeah, I can imagine the amount of scale that you can do when you got a new product. So, you're not having.
And of course,
mass scale.
Once you make the animations for training, you take the same thing, take the verbiage, change it to marketing, and now you got something for your website for your clients. Just take away the detail of
and being able to distribute that to the masses
or leave it
easily.
Let your clients explore, right? So that's why we actually went after the 2 verticals. It's not because we're crazy. It's because you could take one that was already built and put it over to the other for no additional cost or very little additional cost. So, we're all about creating value for our customers.
Your story is quite intriguing. Coming from a non-tech background, understanding or looking at tech along the journey and seeing how you can do things with it. Where does that come from? Is that just the creative mind? Being a DJ, you obviously got that creative mindset within you. Do you think it's that creative aspect of yourself that's enabled you to get there, or what is it? What is it about you?
You know what it is for me? I'm not the most creative person. I've tried to build things I'm kind of I'm not very good at, but
Yeah.
What I really love and what kind of gets me out of bed is how do I create a tool for those creative people to do something? And where I really got the bug for this was with Emulator. And Emulator, for those of you who don't know, was the world's most advanced DJ performance system. It was a giant piece of glass that you could DJ on, and you could create. So when we first launched it, it was just it was just a DJ system. You couldn't edit it, you couldn't do anything. And then what we did was we opened it up, and if you're seeing this now, what you're seeing is the full editable version. So you could create it to do anything you wanted. It could be a MIDI controller for audio. It could be a controller for lighting. It could be a controller for video. It doesn't matter. And so what we did was we created a platform that allowed artists to create whatever it is they wanted to see on it. And one of the coolest things ever was when Mike Shinoda from Linkin Park had one. And I remember meeting him at NAMM, the music show every year. And he shows up and he had the emulator there. And he goes, here, check it out. And so he opens it up. And it was just like a bunch of like octagons, a bunch of them, different colors in like a pattern. And it didn't look like anything, just looked like a pattern of octagons. And I was like, okay, what is it? He goes, oh, what do you mean? It's a piano. I was like, it doesn't look like a piano at all. Like, and so we started playing it, like touching all the buttons, and he was playing it like a piano. And that was when I was like, oh God, this is amazing. And I think that's where I really got the bug, when seeing like Jean-Michel Jarre take our emulator and perform on stage in a virtual concert at New Year's Eve. Seeing artists and what they do with the tools really is what gets me jazzed, because I'm not the creative guy. I'm the tool guy. Here's the tools. If I can use them, anybody can use them. I'm not the creative guy. That's fine. At least I can use them. I can make something. But in the hands of creators, then it just gets crazy. So Metaverse, we think, and actually our mission is pretty simple. It's Metaverse creation for everyone. So everybody should be able to participate in the creation of the Metaverse or Web3 or the future of the internet or whatever. Very similar, like Canva enabled everybody to be a Photoshop wizard. We're allowing everybody to be a creator. So
it's pretty exciting what you're working on, and yeah, it is. I think I'll challenge you a little bit. You can be creative in many different areas, but what you're doing is bringing things together and pushing the boundaries of what's possible. And that's where I think you're adding huge value, and then the creators pick it up and do what they choose with it. But yeah, there's someone has to bring it all together. What they do with it is that's
when it gets spicy.
Yeah.
When you're like, whoa, you just solved a world problem using a platform that we built. Wow, that's I think for me, it's going to be amazing. When the first, because we aren't really promoting the software as much as we could. We held back a bit because version 2 is coming out. We didn't want to train everybody on version 1 and then retrain everybody. So when version 2 comes out, we're going to do a creator fund and all these things. But the really interesting thing is when rubber hits the road and people start creating stuff, when it starts to create value, like when we landed the medical device client, and we started really creating like tens of millions of dollars in value to them to save money in training. Think about that. At scale, we're going to be creating billions of dollars. Not we, but the people creating on our platform. They'll be able to create billions of dollars in value for enterprises. Like billions. I'm not saying our company's going to sell billions. I'm saying the underpinning technology is going to be able to create so much value. We're able, as a small agency, with a tool to create millions and tens of millions of dollars in value to a client right now, clients. Imagine when the world can do this.
Can't even picture the direction of what they can come up with.
This is why we didn't want to pigeonhole ourselves into one specific vertical, because look, yes, we could focus 100% of our efforts on medical device training, and we could be a multi-million-dollar company. We're already a multi-million-dollar company. Like we could be probably $1 billion company doing medical device training. But what about consumer electronic marketing? What about the virtual mall? What about you can build your entire business on our engine? Like people are building, solutions on Unity or Unreal. We're like a game engine, but we're on the web. So,
yep, phenomenal.
Yeah.
In terms of the name Metaverse, obviously, there's been big in the news right now with Facebook and their core brand will be Meta and changing to that. So, What has that meant for your brand? What has that done? Obviously, you've built a brand yourself, but has that had an impact on the business itself in terms of what you're doing and put a bit of a spotlight in terms of what you're up to?
It's yet to be determined, really. I mean, we just get up and go to work every day like we did before. Yeah. I mean, it hasn't made us hella rich or anything. That's not the point anyway. The point is that, yes, it shone a giant spotlight, and now in the last 90 days, and I don't know, this was the reports from maybe 3 weeks ago, we did a report, and in the previous 90 days, there was 319,000 articles that had mentioned the word metaverse. Like,
that's a bit of a blow up.
Yeah.
Yes.
I can't go on my email without seeing the word metaverse. Like, in fact, try to go 1 hour, and every time you see the word metaverse or hear it, do a shot and see if you live.
Yeah, I don't think you'd get very far in that Google search.
So it's been good for our brand, but I almost feel like, okay, now it's a little much. Let's just kind of get back to work, everybody. And it's kind of like we're in peak NFT hype right now. So I saw a thing yesterday, and this is what made me really think, oh my God, we're at the peak of NFT crazy. You know, there was an NFT generator, and you type in what you wanted, you put some images in, and it would literally generate you 10,000 unique JPEGs that you could then put as an NFT.
Yeah, there's plenty of these that exist, yes.
Like,
that's another thing, giving creators the ability to do whatever they like, but yes.
I get it, but do we need another 10,000 JPEGs of almost the same thing? Like,
everyone's just trying to make a buck.
The market's insane.
But
yes.
With the use of the word metaverse over the last 90 days or 4 months since that announcement, everyone's perception of it is probably a little bit different as well than what your perception of it is and what Facebook's is trying to push. A lot of people, I think, in the crypto space as well, they're just trying to push a 3D world where there's not much to it beyond what Second Life was like, say, 10 years ago. Or World of Warcraft as an MMORPG.
It's not even close to what Second Life was 10 years ago. It's like, here's our chain, here's our coin, and you can invest in it, and we're going to build something in the future, and it's going to be really cool, and it's going to be in the future, and it's going to be awesome. And we're now with $100 million, and we have a website.
And they have nothing. We're in Second Life. Right? You could go in there and buy a virtual property and sell it for $50,000. It's what people were doing.
Yeah, Decentraland's got something cool. I mean, they definitely have some land, but if you kind of look at the map of Decentraland and you take it and you put it next to, remember in the 90s or maybe 2000s, there was a thing called the $1 Million website?
One pixel for $1 or whatever it was.
Google it. It was 1,000 pixels by 1,000 pixels, and it was $1 a pixel.
Sell the advertising space.
And you could buy as many pixels as you want. It turned out to be a collage of crap. And I feel like we're like Decentraland seems like the $1 Million website was a decade ago, unless it creates real value, which I don't, maybe it will, maybe it won't, but I don't see it yet. We'll see. We'll see what this land has to have. The Sandbox is the same thing. You've got Sandbox, you've got Decentraland, you've got Boson Protocol, you've got all these companies. There's probably an NFT company for every word we've said on this.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Podcast.
And there's probably 10 times that just are ready to launch right now.
And they're all Metaverse experts. Look at their titles.
Everyone jumps on the bandwagon, right? And then it all blows up in everyone's face.
It's going to blow up. So the NFT, my prediction, I've been saying this for a few weeks now, in the next 3 to 6 months, we're going to see a market correction that will take about 95 to 98% of the value of all the current NFT market and obliterate it. And the original creators, investors, the people that are at the top will take their money off the table. Everybody else will lose their money. And then we now have a basis to start creating real value with NFTs. So we're going to see a market crash of NFTs. And then we're going to see a slow, gradual increase in the real use case of NFTs over the next
it's that same cycle with the internet, the glut of just everyone trying to jump on board and the
with
hype
every
comes
technology.
on.
It goes through the hype cycle, it goes through the trough of disillusionment, goes through the plateau of productivity. Every technology follows the same path every time. Where we are with NFT,
crypto world's seen it 4 years
right
ago.
now,
So basically,
is exactly where ICOs and ITOs were.
2018.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. 4 years ago.
December, you can watch it.
Yeah,
It was December, it was like crazy, and then January, February, it fell off the cliff. And so we'll see if that matches.
Yeah, it's going to fall off the cliff next year.
We'll
That's
see.
the reality. Yeah, I will see. But
I hope I'm wrong.
Yeah, when you've got NFTs selling for 30, 100 ETH, you're thinking, what the hell's going on here? It's a picture on a screen, and
and I just right click save.
Just,
baffles me.
The use cases of them at the moment are pretty crap. It's just they're saying it's art, but it's
use case at this
you just slapping multiple layers of an image together to make 10,000 versions of the same thing, and then how long is that going to survive for?
Actually, to your point, exactly that. The ones that are auto-generated and stuff, okay, great. You made 10,000 unique pieces of something. What I did see was really cool. There was a women's one, and it was art. There was 10,000 pieces of art, painted, real art, painted by or designed by women around the world. So they had hundreds of designers. And those art pieces were like one-of-ones. They didn't all look the same. Some of them were similar because they were in kind of a family group of images from one woman. But they curated this 10,000 group, and I thought that was amazing, empowering women to create this art. It wasn't just some crypto bro in his basement using an AI algorithm to generate 5,000 8-bit graphics.
It's a bit more unique.
Yeah, you can actually see the value in that, right? So
and then the stuff people don't realize, the stuff that Beeple is doing, people don't realize this, but the art that Beeple's making, when you buy it, you don't just get the NFT and you get this thing that you can show off on OpenSea or wherever. You actually get an acrylic frame with LEDs in it and a screen that shows your art.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize
and
that.
So they're
either.
shipping you a physical piece of art. I mean, you're paying $10,000 for a piece of art. You should have something to show for it. And so that's what they're doing. And they make really beautiful art pieces.
That's cool.
So
that's some different utility as opposed to just having the ability to just generate some royalties from selling it. I think,
Exactly. They're like, oh, well, if I was the buyer of this, where would I want to show it off? I want to show it on my house. I want to have it on my thing and say, oh, there's my Beeple. Look, So cool.
Yeah. So in terms of, you mentioned a bit of blockchain in terms of what you're doing. How do you imagine blockchain coming into the world of metaverse in your frame? What does it look like for you?
Well, we're a creator.
Is that the mall selling the locations?
So we're a creator platform. So it depends on the use case. So for example, built into our engine, and this is the partnership we announced last week with Hedera. The idea is that you will be able to, when you hit the publish button to publish to the internet, you'll have an option. Do you want to mint something, anything? You want to mint something in the experience? You can mint one asset, or you can mint the whole experience as an NFT, and then you can and we host it, because an NFT, people don't understand this. An NFT is not the actual object. It's not the hosting of this object. It's nothing. All it is a tag saying you own it, and it's tagged to whatever you tag it to. So let's say you buy a JPEG piece of art, and it says you're the owner of it, or maybe it's a video, let's say, and it's hosted somewhere. Well, if that hosting service goes down, you've lost your video. I don't care if your NFT says you own it, you don't have it. It's not there. It's gone. So the NFT is not the asset. Don't confuse that. The NFT is just a tag saying that you own it. And so what we're doing is we're saying, okay, you built this on the Metaverse Engine. Now you can tag it with the NFT, and that tags to the Hedera blockchain, so there's no gas fees and that sort of thing. So instead of tagging it to Ethereum, we're tagging it to Hedera. That's the only difference for us. And the reason why we went with Hedera is because they are an enterprise-first organization, even though they're obviously allowing people to do anything they want on it. But we're the same way. We're enterprise-first because if we can solve the issues of the enterprise, if we can give them the level of quality that they demand, which is super friggin' high.
It is high. Yeah.
Oh my God, it's ridiculous. The laundry list of things we had to do to go through procurement is bonkers. But because we already went through that, we now know our engine is battle tested and ready and can be used by anybody building their solutions on our engine, and they will pass technical due diligence in any corporation. And that's why we went with Hedera, because they've already done that, and we didn't want to have to go through that rigmarole.
With just on the Hedera versus Ethereum, it's also going to be the cost of getting them into the market as well.
Well, that wasn't. It's funny because a year ago when we decided to go with Hedera,
I suppose the fees weren't anywhere close to what they are.
The fees weren't that high because Ethereum was low, right? Yeah. And so it wasn't that expensive. But now, as Ethereum goes up, your gas prices go up, and I mean, it just became a a happy coincidence and a happy benefit, but we really didn't. It was really only about the environmental and the fact that
enterprise is a completely different beast. And if you start going towards government again, then it's another level of scrutiny at a different level again, not just another level.
I just spoke at the military training and simulation conference on the military metaverse 2 weeks ago, and security came up. Like, how do you secure a headset, right? So maybe, for example, you're doing training on something like this, like the Quest or HoloLens. What they're talking about now is using Wi-Fi delivered over light, and it only works in that. Like, if the light can see it, it gets Wi-Fi. If not, like if I put my book here, it stops working. It doesn't. If I walk into the room and take this out, it has no data on it. It's only the data streaming. So they're really conscious of security, and also working with companies that are not foreign invested. So, there's a lot of companies that are invested in, like China, let's say, for example, and, China doesn't have a good record with data protection and privacy and things like this. So we're going to see how that plays out, I guess. Well, we're not a U.S. company either. We're a Canadian company.
It's a very interesting space.
Hopefully we've got a good reputation in the world.
Oh, you meant to be the friendly neighbor, so it shouldn't be a problem.
Yes.
Yeah, there's always the joke, if America wanted to take over Canada, they just push the border up by 100 miles. Everybody lives within 100 miles of the border.
Yeah.
Everything north of that's too cold.
Too cold to stay away.
Exactly.
Alan, it's been an absolute pleasure just talking about where you're at, what Metaverse is, and how you got here. And I think it's quite an inspiring story for people to think about in terms of how they go on the track of adding value. It's one thing you mentioned through the conversation is how we're adding value. It's in the end, it's not about the dollars. The value will fill the business and the growth and the exponential growth that you looking to hopefully see and make a bigger impact in terms of what you're doing. Really appreciate your story, your journey, and coming on and sharing. But love to catch up again next year to see how version 2 rolls out and discuss that at some point. So
before we leave us, Alan, for anyone listening out there, if they do have an idea and think they can provide value to someone, what's one piece of advice you can help them push that forward or move with?
Sure. I think, I would like to just give this broad advice. The world is going to be built by creators. The metaverse, the Web3, whatever you want to call it, it's going to be built by creators. And the tools are getting easier and easier and easier every day. We're making one set of tools, but there's all sorts of tools. There's a friend of mine's working on an app right now where you can take your phone, you can walk around, take a few pictures of an object, and it'll create a 3D object for you can drop into a game engine. So the tools are getting easier and easier every day to create. So don't be afraid of it. Start learning how to create now, because the world will be designed by creators like you, and it doesn't have to. You don't have to be a developer or a coder or a programmer. Everybody can participate in this, and this is really the future belongs to everybody. And the more people that can create, the more it will be created in the ways we want it to be, and not just created by a bunch of big corporations that see this is how we're going to do it. And big corporations didn't start big. They all start small. And so there's a lot of opportunity in the next decade. More to quote Peter Diamandis, more wealth will be created in the next 10 years than all of previous human history. Actually, if you look back 24 months, more money was printed in the last 24 months than all of human history. So his predictions already come true. But it is crazy that we're going into exponential growth, and all these tools are getting easier and easier. So don't be afraid to pick up the tool, to learn it, and learn now, because as you start to make mistakes and learn, you're going to be way ahead of the game. There's not many people playing in this game right now. It seems like there's a lot, but there's not. So get involved. The world needs more creators like you.
Perfect.
Brilliant. Thanks for sharing.
And you can go to metaverse.com, METAVRSE.com, metaverse.com, and you can check us out. You can sign up for a free account at engine.metaverse.com, and the mall will be out soon.
Yeah, we'll put all those links out with the notes and wherever we post it on socials to get everyone towards you, Alan.
Amazing. Thank you, guys. Merry Christmas, everybody. Happy holidays. And thank you so much for this amazing opportunity to share. And I hope to see you guys soon in the Metaverse.
We'll definitely check it out.
Yep.
Make a virtual office at the minimum.
Thanks, Al. That's a good idea.
Thank you.
Cheers, Al.